to RetroMania Wrestling!
I put the BWO in a video game, so as you can imagine, it didn't take real long to consider it, and I said, absolutely. I got with Meanie and Stevie, said, let's rock, let's do it. So that's how I got involved.
I'm in a similar situation. I'm a lifelong gamer, big fan of the 2D, all the games you mentioned, especially WrestleFest and Fire Pro Wrestling through all the consoles they went through. I also got in touch with Mike Archer, who I worked with in WWE too. Me and Stevie had done a bit that never aired called the Blonde Bitch Project. And Mike Archer reached out to me because he's a big fan because we mentioned a game he had done back in the day. It's like, oh, I'm so glad you mentioned, the In Your House video game or one of those games. But when they approached me to do the game, it was a no-brainer. I love pro wrestling. I love video games. I only got to be in one video game. Before this, I only got to be in one video game. And this, to me, this is more special because it's ground roots, homegrown from the ground up. Got to be a part of a really cool project, and hopefully this is the launching point for more games to come with Mike. I totally believe in what Mike's doing. He's been working nonstop, even through everything we've been going through with COVID and the delays with that. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. I love being here, and I hope you guys love the game as much as I do.
We all had similar communication. I think the number one word that I think of when I think of Mike Archer, Myro, and Mike Meanie, Mike Boucher, too many damn Mikes to go around. So yeah, exactly. So any Mikes in the audience, then you can add to the list. So the same thing happened, but the number one word that I really loved about this project from day one was collaboration and people being generous. Mike, Herman, number one thing he came to me was not, hey, I want to put you in the game, I want to put the BWO in the game. He said, what can I do for you? What can I do to help your Stevie Richards fitness brand? I have an idea maybe to put it as a training mode, like a story mode, where I can feature your brand. And it just blew me away that the entire team, Retrosoft Studios, Mike Archer, even the talent with each other in the company, all want to be generous and help and contribute. And coming from pro wrestling, I don't know if you heard, there's a rumor going around, there's a lot of selfish people in pro wrestling. So when you're with people that want to give and you're with people that also believe and have passion for something, you heard Mike, you heard me, myself now. We all grew up loving these games, but wished there was a new kind of game that resembled it. We wish there was another WrestleFest. We wish Fire Pro would be on Switch. There's all these different wish lists that WrestleMania Wrestling also be able to put guys in there like us that have never been in a video game. So Vince McMahon was huge on first evers, and I think Mike Herman has out first ever Vince McMahon with a lot of people.
Thank you very much. So it was great working with these guys and getting to know these guys really well. I probably talked to Stevie the most out of the three. Well, I don't know, maybe Stevie or Meanie a lot too. But I gave Stevie some tech support too. One time he was in Micro Center trying to work something out. He FaceTimed me and we were going through. But just
listen, I'll just say this right now. I'm a Mac guy, so you try to duck in front of me.
Boo.
Well, none of you people edit videos. Stop. I won't pay Adobe $20 a month, so I'm sorry. Mike was tech supporting the guy who's supposed to tech support the game with beta testing. So I'll let you continue.
Yeah. But it was really great getting to know these guys throughout, and not just the guys, present company included, but all the wrestlers I really dealt with in RetroMania Wrestling, as you see. Road Warrior Animal, before he passed, I got to know him a little bit. Matt Cardona, Brian Myers, who we snagged right after they left WWE, were great guys to work with, got to know them a little bit. Warhorse, who won our IndyMania tournament last year, has been really great. Cole Cabano has been awesome. He's the voice of RetroMania. He does some of the color commentary in there. Austin Idol, and you can see we have a mix of all these different guys. Austin Idol never been in a video game before. Warhorse never been in a video game. Although these guys have been in separately, never as the BWO in a video game before. So we really wanted to get those first, as Stevie said, in here, and just get back to a fun wrestling game that you can pick up and play. So it was a little nerve-wracking for me talking to these guys initially, because I didn't know any of them. This is kind of like, I was marking out for these guys, and it's funny, just me saying that kind of stuff, it's so easy if you hang out with wrestlers to pick up their terminology. But it's like, if anybody watched the Smurfs when they were growing up, like the Smurfs, right? They all say Smurf. This is Smurfing. They use the word gimmick, just like Smurf. Everything's a gimmick, and I don't know what to talk about. This is a gimmick, that's a gimmick. Oh, did you see that gimmick the other night? So it took me a while to kind of pick up with what, how to speak the language a little bit.
You know, it's like I was in an automobile one time where the driver of the vehicle, Rick Ratchet, lost his keys, and another wrestler looked at him and said, "Hey, just take the gimmick and put it in the gimmick and hit it with the gimmick." And we all knew he meant take the screwdriver, put it in the steering column, and hit it with the hammer. And we didn't blink. So yeah, you guys all do it too now. You know you do. So.
So just being introduced to the wacky world of pro wrestling has just been really a dream of mine. I watched wrestling as a kid, and that's really what got me. And I played video games as a kid a lot, and just being in this kind of world, being at these gaming conventions, getting to know all of you is just awesome. I'm so glad we're back at TooManyGames in 2021. We got a great crowd here. So with that, I have some other things to say. We'll maybe come back and do some Q&A now a little bit. Stick around at the end of this. After we do some Q&A, we're going to have the guys are going to get some trivia questions out. We're going to give away 3 t-shirts and 3 copies of the game. So I think that was Stevie's idea. I don't know if he told the other 2 guys yet. So they just told them now. So hopefully they can think of some questions between now and then.
Another example of pro wrestling. That's called a rib.
So I'm gonna. So here we go. Make sure I have. You can pull on the other side. Yeah, they got some great slides. All right, we're good. All right, any questions?
My name is Andy. Doing good, doing good. What was the hardest part of development for you?
Yeah, so the hardest part of development for me, outside of working with these guys, other than that, no, it's really been great. I think the hardest part was just, I'll give you a little bit of background. So my background is in software engineering. I started out in accounting and finance software. I still do that as well. So I've never done game development before. And doing game development is a lot different. One is just the amount of art assets involved in a 2D game. You think our game's 2D, it looks like a game that came out, in the 90s. It's sprite-based. You should be able to crank that out real easy, and it's not. It's just managing. Each one of the wrestlers in the game has about 1,200 sprites per wrestler. So times 16 guys that we have in the game, it adds up really quick. We have 15 artists working on the game throughout from the start to the beginning over 4 years. Some artists come and go, and working with the artists. I'm more of an analytical kind of guy, and artists, I'm not, I have some creativity in me, so I was able to put this together, but the artists just, what they were able to do is amazing with pixel art, and working with all of them, that was probably the most difficult, but also the most rewarding. See my ideas, kind of then create them and come to life. So that's really, just managing the art pipeline was probably the hardest part. Good question.
My name is Francisco.
Francisco.
Okay, so my question is, somewhere down the road in future DLC, will we be seeing the tag team titles included?
Yep. Great question. Future DLC, will we have the tag titles included? The answer is yes, definitely. So one of the, I think in their contract, I believe 2 of the 3 of them have to start as the initial champs. I think they put that in there. And there's the Freebird rule. Any
A
2.
couple of zeros in my group.
So yes, there will be tag team champions, and here's a TooManyGames exclusive. More tag teams are coming down the road.
Cool.
All right. Come on up. Trios title. So I'll throw this back to the BWO. Have you guys ever held a trios title belt? No. Oh, there's going to be a first time then. I think we do that.
We actually did compete. I think it's on YouTube. If not, they used to sell a DVD. The only time we took up in a trios tournament was the Chicago show, right? Yeah. So what was that in 2005? You're gonna make me do math. So that was 2016.
Well, you got the most decorated tag team in RetroMania Wrestling history. There you go.
One of my favorite things at Fire Pro Wrestling included was the option to have one of the exploding ring deathmatch cages. Is there any chance you're going to include something like that here?
So I have a funny story about that. One of the users on Steam, Skull Trauma is his username on Steam. Every day when we launched the game, he would start writing haikus online, all revolving around adding blood and that to the game. So it's pretty popular. I think we're definitely going to add some level of it at some point. Just because I think from an arcadey standpoint, it's a fun kind of thing to do to see if Fire Pro does it well. So yeah, it's not out of the question. I think it's definitely going to be on the list. He's actually that same person is now helping us doing testing, and one of his prerequisites was you got to put that kind of stuff in the game. So.
I have a question for you. If we do the exploding ring in RetroMania Wrestling, he already knows what I'm going to say. Do you want the Terry Funk Onita exploding ring, or do you want the AEW exploding ring? Which one? Or do you want the option?